What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'll be sharing with you another sponsored installation and review video of this 55-inch by 30-inch LED mirror from Amorho. Now this installation was slightly different than the previous 3 videos that I made because today we are going to install this mirror in my downstairs powder room in an orientation that the mirror wasn't initially designed for. In addition to that, we also finally attempted to hardwire the mirror to an existing light switch, which is something that we hadn't tried to do in the past 3 mirror installations. So I'm super excited to share with you how it turned out and what the results were in this video. So before I share with you my experience and review of this 55-inch by 30-inch LED mirror, I do want to mention that this is a sponsored video and Amorho did send me the mirror to share with you my unbox and install experience. Now, as most of you may know, this isn't the first mirror from Amorho store that I've installed, and it probably won't be my last. In fact, I love the way these mirrors look, and they're also so easy to install. Now, the installation that I'm sharing with you today was a little bit different and a little bit more complicated because unlike the previous installations, I took it a step further and I ended up hardwiring the mirror to an existing light switch instead of just simply plugging it into a power outlet. So this is a little bit more of a complicated install. This Amorho LED mirror that we decided to install in our downstairs powder room is about 3 times larger than the original vanity mirror that was installed and that came with the house. In addition to replacing the mirror, this new LED mirror from Amorho will also be replacing the LED light for the bathroom itself. So it would technically be serving a dual purpose as both a light and a mirror. Now the reason why we chose a bigger mirror for the powder room is so we could make the room look a little bit bigger and hopefully get a lot more light in that bathroom. In fact, this mirror from Amorho has the same great look and the same great features as the mirrors that we installed previously in our master and guest bathrooms. And this one retails for around $390. Now, if you use my referral code CHRIS15, you can also get an additional 15% off of this or any other order that you place on Amorho's website. So, if you like the way this install or any of the previous installs turned out, and you want to get one of these mirrors for yourself, I'll leave a link to them in the description section below with my discount code. So to start out, this is what my current downstairs powder room looks like. Now, my vision was to make it look a lot less cramped by installing this much larger mirror. When it comes to packaging and shipping, this mirror comes in your standard packaging, which is reinforced by styrofoam to insulate the mirror from any kind of damage. Now, it wasn't very heavy and I could move it around on my own, unlike the heavier and larger mirrors that I installed previously. But I do recommend, however, that if you're doing the type of install that I'm doing in this video today, that you do get some help. Now, when it comes to contents, aside from the mirror, inside the box you'll find the instruction manual, as well as the mounting brackets and screws, and then again a single glove for helping you to move the mirror around and remove any kind of fingerprints that might be left on the mirror during the install. Now, when doing the install, just a piece of advice. You aren't going to want to wear more than the single glove so you can get a little bit more grip and to avoid dropping the mirror when moving it around. In fact, I didn't even use any gloves at all and decided to just use the glove to wipe down fingerprints after the install. From a build standpoint, as usual, the back of the mirror is where you will find the control box and the defogger pad, which overall helps to defog the mirror, and like the previous mirrors, this one does come with a power plug. Now, I don't want to preempt this video, but truth be told, in hindsight, I probably took the more complicated way of installing this mirror by splicing that power cable and connecting it to the existing wiring for the LED light fixture that was previously installed. Instead, I probably should have removed that LED light and converted that light fixture to a power outlet instead, and then simply plugged this mirror in from behind. But at the time of the installation of the mirror, I ended up taking the much more complicated route of splicing the power cord and then wiring it directly to the exposed cables of the light fixture, which you'll see later in this video. Going back to the install. As usual, the first order of business was to remove the light fixture itself, which was easy enough, and then the mirror, which in itself should have been an easy task, but it ended up being the most complicated part of this entire installation process. While I was trying to remove the mirror, we discovered that the builders of our home glued the mirror to the wall in order to secure it. I tried pretty much everything I could think of to get that mirror off the wall, including several tools, and also scraping, cutting, and just getting behind the mirror to remove the glue or cut through it. I even went as far as to try to heat the mirror and the area around it to see if I could melt the glue, but nothing worked. And in addition to that, because this was such a constrictive space to work in, it didn't leave me much choice, and instead I just decided to cut the drywall around the mirror out, hoping that I could just patch it with another piece of drywall afterwards. Now that drywall work probably took a majority of the time, but once I finally cut through the drywall all around the mirror, I removed that panel that I cut out, exposing the 2x4s behind the wall, leaving a pretty good size hole that I needed to patch up. Now, the good news is I got the mirror off the wall. The bad news, it was a lot more work than I had expected, but I did have confidence that it would turn out nicely. Now, I know the hole that I had to patch up was a little bit big, but because this mirror that we were installing was an oversized mirror, it did allow me to cover up the patchwork very easily. I did end up painting the wall for consistency, but because the mirror was so big and covered up much of the wall, I didn't have to do much of the retexturing or any of that extra work. Now again, while installing the brackets, I did run into another issue because I didn't have studs on both the right and the left side of the mirror that I could secure at least one screw for each of the brackets into. So I opted to install the brackets and the studs that I have available. Now typically, when I'm installing these brackets, I do like to make sure that at least one screw is screwed into a stud. This just makes me feel more comfortable that the mirror won't pull the bracket out of the wall and off the drywall. Now, to ensure that the holes on the bracket that weren't screwed into a stud were secure, I did use these little plastic screw type anchors, which actually work amazingly well for mounting and securing things on drywall. If you're interested, I'll leave a link to those as well in the description section below. Now, one piece of feedback and something that would be nice of Amorho to do would be to include more than 2 brackets, maybe 3, which would make it a lot easier for different structured walls. Now, once the brackets were installed, the next step I did was splice the power cable to expose the ground, the neutral, and active wires from the mirror, which I would use to connect into the corresponding wires that were left when I removed the LED lamp. Now, as I mentioned before, in hindsight, this is probably the more complicated approach, and it probably would have been easier to replace the LED receptacle with a power outlet instead, and then just simply plug this mirror in from behind, since the power cable for the mirror itself had a flat power plug. That would have been the more easy step, but overall I decided to take the more complicated step. In fact, it was so complicated that the approach I took required 2 of us to wire the mirror. And then to mount the mirror, my friend who helped me install the mirror ended up having to lift the mirror up while I was wiring everything together. Now, if I had taken the easier approach and installed the outlet instead, it would have been as easy as taking the power plug from the mirror itself and plugging it directly into the new outlet. So just a lesson learned and a piece of advice for any of you who are going to attempt this more complicated install. Now, once the brackets were installed and all that wiring and cabling was complete, it was just a matter of lifting up the mirror and sliding it down against the wall onto the brackets themselves until the mirror was securely latched onto the brackets. Now for this piece, I do recommend making sure that you have a friend help you do this install because the mirror can be a little bit complicated to navigate, especially when you're in a restricted space. And because we did have limited space, it was a little bit more difficult to lift and maneuver the mirror, but we were able to successfully do it. And once it was mounted, we flipped the power switch on to see if it will work, and it did. Now, not only am I able to power on the mirror using the existing switch for the bathroom, but I can also use the controls on the mirror itself to dim the lights and brighten the lights, as well as change it between the different temperature settings that are available. Now, normally it should only take about 15 to 30 minutes to complete the overall install, but because we ended up hardwiring the mirror and having to cut out and replace drywall, this process ended up taking about 4.5 hours, which I think is still not bad. However, I think we could have done it in less time, especially if we had just installed a power outlet and if we didn't have to cut out all that drywall because the mirror was glued onto the wall. Now the last step was to clean up our mess, do some touch-ups, and then just put everything back that we removed. And then, as you can see from the shots that I took, the mirror itself and the install turned out amazing. The oversized mirror makes this tiny space so much bigger, and the LED lights on the mirror itself makes the bathroom look so much brighter. Now this just goes to show that these amazing LEDs from Amorho can be used in a lot of different configurations and in a lot of different environments. And they absolutely do change and enhance the space no matter where you place them. In addition to that, these mirrors do also have several different functions and settings which will allow you to customize the space by switching between 3 different temperature settings: daylight, bright white, and warm light, all using the touch capacitive power buttons on the front of the mirror itself. You also have the ability to dim and adjust the level of brightness by pressing and holding the center button. And then finally, you do also have the defogger button, which is something that we'll probably not be using for this powder room, but it's there if you need it. Anyways, as usual, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, please support me by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. I'll also leave a link in the description section below for this mirror and other Amorho store products, along with my discount code for 15% off of your purchase. Thanks again to Amorho for sponsoring this video and sending me this mirror to install. Not only are they great looking, but they also work well and they're also affordable. And then thank you to all my viewers for the continued support. We'll see you in the next video.